Daniel never thought his life could unravel so quickly. At 35, he had built a steady career in architecture, a comfortable home, and, most importantly, a seemingly happy marriage with Olivia. They had been together for 6 years, married for 4, and though life had thrown its fair share of challenges at them, he believed they had weathered them together. Then, she disappeared. One evening, Olivia told Daniel she was going on a weekend retreat with some friends. It wasn't unusual, she had taken short trips before, and he never thought twice about it. He kissed her goodbye at the door, told her to have fun, and waited for her texts to confirm she had arrived safely. But no texts came. No calls. Nothing. At first, Daniel assumed her phone had died. Then he worried something had happened. He called her best friend, Lauren, expecting reassurance. "What retreat?" Lauren had asked, confusion clear in her voice. That was when the first seeds of doubt were planted. Daniel checked Olivia's closet. Several outfits were missing. Her passport was gone. A sinking realization settled in his stomach. She had left, not just for a weekend, but for good. Days turned into weeks. Daniel searched for answers, but Olivia's family was just as stunned as he was. No one had heard from her. No one had seen her. She had vanished without a trace. In the months that followed, Daniel went through every stage of grief, shock, anger, denial. Therapy helped, but nothing could erase the betrayal. He had given his all to their marriage, and she had simply walked away without so much as an explanation. Eventually, Daniel forced himself to move on. He focused on his career, his friends, and hobbies he had once abandoned. Slowly, he rebuilt his life. The ghost of Olivia lingered, but it no longer consumed him. 2 years later, on a crisp autumn morning, there was a knock at his door. He opened it, and there she was. Olivia stood before him, looking almost the same, except for the small child in her arms. A boy, no older than a year, with soft brown eyes that mirrored hers. Daniel froze. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice tentative. His grip tightened on the doorknob. He wanted to slam the door in her face. He wanted to demand answers. But instead, he forced himself to stay calm. "Why are you here?" he said, his voice colder than he had ever imagined it could be. She hesitated, then sighed. "Because I made a mistake. And I want to fix it." Daniel let out a hollow laugh. "A mistake? You disappeared for 2 years. No note, no explanation. You think you can just walk back into my life?" Olivia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I was scared. I was pregnant, and I panicked. I didn't think you'd want him." She glanced down at the child, who clutched at her shirt. "I thought leaving was the best choice." Daniel's mind spun. His world tilted. This was his child. She had been pregnant and hadn't told him. Rage and sorrow warred within him. "You had no right to decide that for me." She nodded, wiping at her tears. "I know. And I regret it every single day. But I'm here now. If you want. I want you to meet your son." Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared at the boy. His son. A child he never knew existed. His first instinct was to shut the door and walk away. But as the second stretched on, something inside him softened. The boy looked at him with quiet curiosity, tiny fingers grasping at the air between them. "What's his name?" Daniel asked at last. "Liam." Olivia's voice was barely above a whisper. He exhaled slowly. "I need time. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, but I won't punish him for what you did." Olivia's relief was palpable. "That's all I ask." For the first time in 2 years, Daniel felt control return to his life. This wasn't just about Olivia anymore. This was about Liam. And Daniel wasn't going to let his son down the way Olivia had let him down. This was just the beginning. Days went by, and Daniel couldn't stop thinking about Olivia's sudden return. He spent every waking moment grappling with the emotions she brought with her, the years of silence, the lies, and the child she had kept from him. Olivia had reached out to him several times, but Daniel wasn't ready. He needed to make sense of everything. He couldn't understand why she had left. But the more pressing question that lingered in his mind was, how could she have kept their son from him all this time? Eventually, Daniel decided to meet her. Not for Olivia, but for Liam. He needed to see his son again, to get to know him. He couldn't ignore the pull of fatherhood, even if it came wrapped in betrayal and confusion. One afternoon, Daniel stood at the door of Olivia's apartment. She had invited him to meet Liam, to see how he interacted with their son. Daniel wasn't sure what to expect, but he knew he had no other choice but to go in. When Olivia opened the door, there was no immediate apology, no excuse. She simply led him into the living room, where Liam was playing with some toys on the floor. Daniel's heart tightened when he saw the small child, his son, unaware of the turmoil surrounding his existence. Liam looked up at him with the same curious eyes that mirrored Olivia's. Without thinking, Daniel crouched down beside him. Liam didn't shy away. Instead, he reached out, a small hand brushing against Daniel's. It was the first moment of connection between them, and Daniel could feel a bond forming in ways he hadn't expected. Olivia stood in the background, watching quietly, giving them space. "I don't know what I'm doing," Daniel said, almost to himself. He looked at Olivia, then back at Liam. "I've missed so much. I don't know if I can be the father you deserve." Olivia stepped forward, her voice soft. "You don't have to know everything right away. Just take it one step at a time. He needs you. And I need you to try. For him." Daniel slowly nodded, taking in her words. He couldn't promise he would forgive Olivia. But as he looked into his son's innocent eyes, he realized he didn't need to. What mattered now was that Liam had a father, one who would try, no matter how messy everything was. In the months that followed, Daniel and Olivia navigated their new reality. They spent more time together, working through the awkwardness, the hurt, and the residual resentment that lingered between them. For Liam's sake, they made it work, gradually rebuilding a new kind of relationship, one that was different from before, but at least honest. Daniel took an active role in Liam's life. He helped with his care, spent weekends together, and watched as his son grew more attached to him. It wasn't easy, there were moments of doubt, moments when he felt like he was fumbling through fatherhood without a guide. But there were also moments of pure joy, first steps, first words, first laughter shared between them. In those moments, Daniel knew he was making the right choice. As for Olivia, she remained a presence in their lives, but Daniel wasn't sure they would ever fully heal from the past. He couldn't forget the way she had left him, the way she had cut him out of her life. But he didn't have to forgive her completely to do what was best for their son. Time passed, and Daniel's relationship with Liam grew stronger. They were a family in their own way, unconventional, perhaps, but bound by love. Daniel had learned that life wasn't always fair or predictable, and sometimes, the best things came from the messiest situations. Olivia continued to try, and although Daniel was still cautious, he couldn't deny the way she had worked to prove she was there for Liam. She had made mistakes, and there was no going back. But in the present, they were both learning to live with those mistakes, and that was all they could do. One evening, as they sat together in the park, Daniel watched Liam run ahead, laughing as he chased a stray ball. Olivia sat next to him, and for the first time in years, there was a quiet peace between them. "You think we're doing okay?" Olivia asked, her voice tentative. Daniel looked at her, his eyes softening. "I don't know what the future holds. But I'm here. For him. For us." Olivia gave a small, hopeful smile, and they both turned to watch their son, who was too young to understand the weight of the world, but old enough to bring them both a sense of purpose and healing. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was enough. The story wasn't over, it had only just begun. As the years passed, Daniel, Olivia, and Liam settled into a new rhythm. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was becoming its own kind of beautiful. Liam was growing up surrounded by love, laughter, and the quiet understanding that, despite everything that had happened in the past, his parents were doing their best. They were no longer a fractured family, they were learning how to be whole, together. But just as everything seemed to be falling into place, life threw one more challenge their way. One evening, Daniel received a call from Olivia. Her voice was trembling, and for the first time in a long time, he heard fear in it. "Daniel, I don't know how to say this, but I think we need to talk." He felt a knot form in his stomach. "What happened?" There was a long pause before she spoke again. "I've been offered a job, in another city. It's a great opportunity, and it's what I've always wanted. But I don't know what this means for us. For Liam." Daniel stood frozen for a moment. He had always known that Olivia had her own dreams and ambitions, but hearing this hit him harder than he expected. "When do you have to decide?" he asked, his voice quiet. "Tomorrow," she replied. "I know this is sudden. And I don't want to make this decision alone." Daniel ran his hand through his hair, his mind racing. It felt like everything was about to change again. He had just begun to feel secure, to feel like they were finally a family. And now, the question of whether they could stay that way was being thrust into the air. "What does this mean for Liam?" he asked. Olivia sighed. "I don't know. But I want to do what's best for him. I need to know what you think." Daniel spent that night in a restless fog, unable to sleep, his thoughts spiraling. The last few years had been a slow, hard-earned process of rebuilding, and now, just when they had started to find their footing, everything felt uncertain again. But one thing became clear to him as the night wore on: no matter what happened, Liam had to come first. It wasn't just about Olivia's career or his own, this was about what would make their son happy, secure, and loved. The next morning, Daniel and Olivia met at the park, sitting on a bench where they had spent many afternoons watching Liam play. It felt like the right place to talk about something as important as this. "I know this is a big decision," Daniel said, his voice steady despite the turmoil he felt inside. "And I know you've worked hard for this opportunity. But we've both come so far to make sure Liam feels stable. If you go, that's going to change everything for him." Olivia nodded, her expression conflicted. "I know. And I don't want to take him away from you. But I've been given this chance, and I don't know when I'll ever get something like this again. I don't want to regret not going." Daniel took a deep breath. "I know you've dreamed of something like this. And you deserve to pursue it. But I don't know if it's the right time. Liam is still so young. We can't undo the effects of a big change like this on him." Olivia looked at him, the pain in her eyes unmistakable. "So, what should I do?" Daniel paused, taking her hand in his. "I think, for now, we need to put Liam first. He's been through so much already, and I don't want him to feel like he's losing either of us again. Maybe this opportunity will be there in a few years. Maybe you can pursue it, but not at the cost of everything we've worked for with him." A long silence followed. Olivia didn't pull away, but Daniel could see the weight of the decision she had to make was breaking her heart. "I'll stay," she finally said, her voice almost a whisper. "For him. I'll stay for him." Daniel squeezed her hand. "We'll figure this out together. We always do." Months passed, and life took on a quieter, more stable pace. Olivia decided to pass on the job offer, at least for the time being, and together, they focused on creating a strong foundation for their family. They continued to grow as parents, as partners, and as individuals, still learning, still growing, but now with a clear understanding of what mattered most. Liam, for his part, thrived. The stability his parents had worked so hard to create became a bedrock for him. He was surrounded by love, not just from his parents, but also from the extended family they had built together. Friends, neighbors, and even the occasional stranger, they all became part of the web of support that would hold Liam up as he grew. As Daniel watched Liam, now 6 years old, run across the park chasing a ball, laughing with pure joy, he felt a sense of peace settle over him. He had once believed that the story of his life had been shattered beyond repair. But now, he saw the pieces coming together in unexpected ways. Olivia joined him on the bench, a soft smile on her face as she watched their son. "You know, I think we're doing okay," she said. Daniel looked at her, their shared history reflected in the lines of her face, in the way they both had fought to get to this point. "Yeah. I think we are." He took her hand in his. "We've been through a lot. But we've made it this far. And we'll keep going." And for the first time in years, Daniel truly believed it. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy, life never promised that. But as long as they faced it together, as long as they kept their focus on Liam, they knew they could handle whatever came their way. They were a family, in the truest sense of the word, and nothing was going to break them. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear what you think. Your feedback really helps me create better content for you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update. Thanks again and see you in the next video. Take care.